Okay, so the first place I want to talk about is the Windows Ink Workspace. And so like I said before, a lot of these can be either used for creating files for your students, creating lessons for your students, or just taking notes for yourself. So really, it's just showcasing tools and then you using whatever works best for you in whatever way you need it yourself. So if you're following my mouse, it's a little bit tricky to see, but at the very bottom of our screen, we have our date and time stamp. Most of you probably do not have this English US option. So right next to the date and time stamp should be what kind of looks like a little squiggle. Some people refer to it as almost like looking like a little music note. It's actually a pen that has written a little squiggly line behind that. When I click on that, that's going to bring up my Windows Ink Workspace. And now someone was actually showing us this morning. So if you, as you can see in mine, you can see the sticky notes, the sketch pad, and then the snip and sketch right across the top. If yours don't come up like that, you might be on a different version of Windows, which is not a bad thing. You just won't see it the same way that I am seeing it on mine. And I can go into more detail with you later on that, but I just wanted to let you know that if you see it differently, you would see little tiles down here across the bottom instead of this entire sidebar here. All right, so for our first thing, we do have these sticky notes. And, oops, I gotta bring this over. It was on my other window. So I have a sticky note here. And I can do lots of typing, as you can see. I can also use my stylus. So if you just need to bring up something really quick. Oh, that's new. You have to create a new note. I'm sorry, I did not know that. So now I could be writing on this sticky note and taking different notes for myself. So depending on what works for you, that's just something quick and easy. That's similar to the sticky notes that we've had on Windows computers as well. You do have the option that you could add in an image. So actually, why don't I do that? We'll see how fast it goes. My computer has been pretty slow this morning, so if things kind of lag, I probably will stop and just refer to it in general. Oh, you can't see it right now, but it's actually pulling in on my other Windows screen. So I was just choosing a picture. Oh, of course, it's being cranky. But I could pull in a picture if I wanted, and then I could maybe do just some brief pieces of information or text right there. I do like it if I'm just taking a quick little note for myself that I will be bringing in later on. So as you can see, here's my agenda for the day. All right, I'm going to go back down to the bottom, and I'm going to click on that little pen with the squiggle again to bring up my Windows Ink Workspace. This sketchpad is one that I like to use a lot for brief things that I'm working on. The one thing that I don't like about it is whatever is on here is what stays on here. You can't save this page and then come back to work on it within here. So when we first introduced our yogas, this was a tool that we showcase to everyone. So I'm not going to go into a ton of detail. But across your top, you do have different pen options. There's also highlighting options. You can change the size of your pen and the color as well. I've gotten really good at writing the word hello. You cannot bring in other pictures directly into this sketchpad, but you could use it if you were doing some short instructions. You know, and then if you had to work out the problem, well, how would I solve this? Okay, how can I, envision this? Here's a group of 3, and I've got 4 groups of 3. So that would just allow me to do some other writing and editing. You can save this picture. It would allow you to save to your desktop. You could also copy this. So if I wanted to copy it and put it in a email or into a document, I could do some of that information in here as well. Then my final one, so once again, I'm coming down to my Windows Ink Workspace, and Oh, actually, wait, let me show that. I just saw Flanagan's response. Sorry, Mike, I always call you Flanagan half the time. So
it's as nice.
That's weird. I don't know why my stuff came off to the side here, but it was a little bit odd when I was here before. So you'll notice there is this little icon here that's got the picture of a finger. So right now there's no line underneath this. So you'll notice on this red one, there's a blue line just letting me know what icon is being used. This one does not have a blue line. So you're not gonna be able to see me doing this, but right now I'm trying to touch on my screen and I'm not getting anything because I don't have touch activated. If I click on that one, now there's a blue line underneath it. So now once again, I'm using my finger and now I can draw a line with it. Depending on how you're using it, you know, if you're gonna be using your stylus and you're touching in one spot, but then trying to draw with the other, it's only gonna recognize your touch with one point of contact. So if my pinky goes to balance me on here, and then I try and draw with my pencil, I know you can't see me doing it, but that lovely line was my pinky as opposed to the stylus. So if now I take my stylus and I touch it to the screen first, and then I drop my pinky on there, now it's using my stylus and it's not using my pinky. So whichever point of contact goes on first, that's the one it's going to recognize as your drawing tool. Okay, so those are cool things with the sketchpad. So now I'm going to come down once again to that little music note, looking music note, and we have this snip and sketch. So when I click on this, it's going to give me a sketch of my entire screen. This is actually something I personally never use because it takes the entire screenshot. And most of the time, I want to only choose what I have. But when I am in here, and I'm gonna try and make this a little bigger for you. So when I'm in here, obviously you can see everything that I have, and I have all these tools across the top. So once again, we have that little finger option, so I could use my hand to touch it. So if I didn't want to use my stylus, I have the same drawing tools, the eraser, a ruler to help me draw some straight lines. I do have a cropping tool. So if I wanted to cut out maybe all of the side pictures here, I could crop right within here. So I do have that option. If I take a full screenshot, I could crop it right there. You do need to confirm that that's the crop though that you want by clicking that little check mark option. So one thing I like to do a lot then is I take a snip and sketch of different things on my screen as I'm trying to show people how to do things. And then a lot of times then I will circle things and I'll number them. So I might be like, okay, you need to come up to the top. And so once again, I'm using my stylus. You're gonna click on that little home button. And once you get there, then you're gonna click down here and I'll label them that way. Once I have it labeled, I have a couple options. I can save it or I can once again copy it. So a lot of times, especially if you're one of my teachers in one of my buildings, you'll get this a lot of times where I'll snip something like this and then I copy it and paste it directly into an email. Now, as long as I have this screen up, you'll notice, and I'm going to draw an arrow pointing to it, at the very bottom of my screen, I have Snip and Sketch pinned to my desktop. This is how I always access mine, is by using it from down there. So I'm going to close out so you can see what it looks like from the beginning, because I do find that to be very helpful. So when I come down here, this is what I will see. Depending on the size of your last snip, sometimes it drops some of the tools down to the bottom and some of the tools will be on the top. A tool that Snip and Sketch is one of the tools of Snip and Sketch that I find very helpful is this drop down caret right here next to the new. So if you've ever wanted to like take a picture of something on your screen from a different drop down, a lot of times you can't do that because when you try and grab your snip and sketch tool, then when you try and go into something to show a drop down, that drop down has now disappeared. I'm trying to think of like what I have. I don't think I have anything open. Oh, I know what I'm going to do. Okay, so in this drop down, you have 3 choices: snip now, snip in 3 seconds, or snip in 10 seconds. 3 seconds sometimes goes really fast, and then there are other times when 10 seconds seems to take forever. I'm going to choose 10 just to give myself time to navigate for where I want to go. So once I click this, it's going to give me 10 seconds to navigate to whatever I need to get to. So all of these steps that I'm taking now, I wouldn't have been able to do if I wouldn't have given myself time. And actually, I don't even know. Mike, can you unmute? Are you seeing that my screen went gray a little bit?
Yes. Yeah. You can
Okay, good. Okay. So you'll see that up at the top, I've got some options. And you'll notice that my mouse is moving. Now I've got that plus symbol. So what I like about doing snip and sketch through this way is I choose how much of my screen I'm going to snip and be able to sketch on. So across the top though, your first one is going to just be a rectangular clip. If you choose that second one, that's where you kind of draw a circle around it and you get to choose what your, what shape it is. And then if I was like, oh, actually I want the whole screen, I could click this and it would allow me to do the entire screen. So I leave it on this one. And so I'm going to kind of gauge where I am, and I'm just pressing and holding down on my mouse and dragging across it. So now instead of the whole screen, I've got a zoomed in image, and then I can point out, make sure you click on that arrow. And today we're choosing from a blank presentation. So if you're trying to give students directions of how to get to something, this is a great way if you're doing it in a picture format that you want to talk over top of, or if you're just dropping it into a Google Doc so that you can annotate over those pictures. And like I said before, you still have all of those save features now down here on the bottom. You can also bring in a different picture from your desktop or from your files if you wanted to edit from directly within there. That was all of the cool things. So I'm going to come back into our Google Meet. So that was all of the cool things that I like to use in our Windows Ink workspace. Are there any questions in regards specifically to using the Windows Ink workspace tools? I see someone's question.
There was one from Tamara here. She's asking, how do I get it at the bottom?
Oh,
you mean
perfect.
How to just pin it down at the bottom so you can always access it quickly?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to actually pull in a different tool so you can see me do it. There is also this snipping tool. That's what a lot of us were familiar with previously. Snip and Sketch is the updated version of snipping tool. It does have more options for drawing. So I recommend people use Snip and Sketch, but I am going to open up snipping tool so you can see. Once I open it, now I have it open down here on the bottom. And you'll notice once again, I have those blue lines across the bottom, so I know that I have that open, whereas my Snip and Sketch does not have a blue line, so that tells me that it is pinned to the bottom but not open. Once I have it open, I'm going to do a right click, and then I can choose to pin to my taskbar. So now when I close out of this, the snipping tool is always at the bottom. If I decide later on I no longer like this one, when I right click, now I can unpin from my taskbar. And now it is gone.
Denise, to answer your question, which whiteboard are you signing into?
Okay, so I'm gonna guess based on what I saw this morning, Denise, is that when you click on the little pen with the squiggle, you don't see it like this. Do you see the little tiles on the bottom? Okay, so what that means is your computer has been updated to the to Windows version 1809, and it is recognizing, or for some reason, and I don't have more information beyond this is that because you're on the 1909, like on that Windows version, it's making you log into an account to get access to the Sketchpad. So unfortunately, I don't have an answer though for you as to how you can access the Sketchpad then instead, since it's locked.
Out.
Yeah.
That happened to me too, and I just X'd out twice. It kept asking me to log in with Microsoft. I X'd out twice, and it took me there. So try to just X out past, and I think it'll work.
Good to know. So Denise, if you want to try that and see if that works at all.